Hello and welcome to Vergecast, the flagship podcast of mobility solutions here at CES 2024. That's if you spend enough time at CES, you just start to talk like that.
Yeah.
You just can't help it.
You start saying the word innovative,
Yeah.
like as all parts of speech, and just lose all track of what's actually words.
You just look around, there's companies here no one's ever heard of,
Enabled by AI.
enabled by AI to solutionize the future of innovation.
With 8K and 5G.
With 8K and 5G. It's all happening all at once. Hi, I'm your friend Nilay. I'm here at CES. We're here in the Kia Connected Home, which means we're above a number of Kias downstairs, which I'm told are powering the home.
Which is kind of cool.
That's
We also have a view that I would call like regal above CES.
Oh, yeah.
We're sort of gazing upon our kingdom.
I feel
I'm just
very
gonna say,
powerful.
We're slightly above the Google booth right next door.
It's
That's
nice.
right.
It feels right.
What's up, Android? David Pierce is here.
Hi.
Alex Cranz is here.
Hi.
There's a whole Verge team here at CES. A huge number of people. We've been out on the show floor. It's the day after all the press conferences. There's an awful lot of news here at CES.
Yeah.
And David, you have some sort of gambit to organize our two CES shows.
I do. So we have to do 2 shows this week at CES. And the thing about CES is it's just a grab bag of things.
Yeah.
And so we broke it into 2 things. Today we're going to talk about things that are mostly screens. I believe you called them screen gadgets.
Yeah.
And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about all the things that aren't screens.
Yeah.
Do these things blur together? Yes.
All the time.
Is the Venn diagram of them mostly nonsensical and made up in my head? Yes. But this is what we're going to do. So today is the screens day.
Yeah.
There's like a version of this where we were like, okay, it's kind of a car show. It's kind of a TV show. Let's talk about those things. But it's just like, we're going to do screens and no screens.
That's a better organizing principle than CS has for itself. Which this year is just a mishmash of ideas. They're like, AI? Do you want AI to do it? At one point, VW announced that you could just talk to ChatGPT in the car,
Sure.
which seems like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, ChatGPT often makes things up. So just being confidently lied to while you drive is now a feature of the new VW.
There's so much of that this year where
Yeah.
somebody is just like, well, we made a product last year. And now that product, but also ChatGPT.
And nothing else.
Is that new? Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Like Telly, the free TV we talked a bunch about on the show, their new thing is you can talk to ChatGPT to get like recommendations for stuff to watch, which I think is hilarious because to your point, ChatGPT loves to like make up movies that don't exist. So
Yeah.
you can just like invent movies out of whole cloth and then not watch them on your free television.
Well, it
Sounds
shows
great.
advertising to you.
Right.
We should actually start with TVs. So if you don't know, CES is a consumer electronics show. We're here in Las Vegas. It is the biggest industry trade show there is. That does not mean the entire industry is here in an odd way. Apple, for example, is not here, but Apple loves to upstage CES. So they announced the Vision Pro earlier this week. We'll get to that later in the show. Microsoft isn't here. They all have employees here and people here wandering around. But in terms of announcements, CES, it waxes and wanes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Google is here, but Google didn't make a lot of announcements. But everything runs Android. So technically, millions of Android products were announced here at CES. So it's a real grab bag of things. The good thing about it is that everyone is here.
Right.
Everyone's talking. If you're a tech reporter, this is fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
You're just in Las Vegas and everyone is holding a drink and ready to tell you a story about something. And in fact, ready to tell you how much they think the Vision Pro costs to build, which has been the best gossip of the week for me. Just people just yelling numbers, just making up numbers out of it. But the history of CS is that this is a show where TVs are announced.
Yeah.
Like in the long history of CS, the one constant that has held this show together and really given it its sort of center of gravity is the TV industry shows up here. They show you new TVs. The buyers from retailers like Best Buy and Amazon and I don't know who, Circuit City still exists. They show up.
RCA has a big booth here, so
They do.
everybody's coming back.
Liam is telling me Circuit City no longer exists. RIP Circuit City. But anyway, the buyers from those big retailers show up. They debate about what will be the hot trends in TVs to sell this year. They place their orders, and then later in the year, the TVs show up on the retailer shelves. That's been the pattern. Still the pattern here at CES. Although, interestingly, Sony has broken this pattern now 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
No TVs at CES. And the big Sony booth at the end of the hall has no TVs in it.
Wow.
Like, there are TVs to show you other Sony stuff, but there's not even like a whisper of like Sony's TV models.
Right.
It's like PlayStation stuff, some camera stuff, half a car, then the rest of the car that Sony's building with Honda, which we'll talk about on Thursday. They're just out of the game. Like Sony wants the high end of the TV market, and then the rest of it is kind of up for grabs.
Yeah.
So we should start with the other announcements, but that to me is just the fascinating turn of the show as I think about the tech industry. This has been the place where TVs get announced and Sony's opting out. Samsung and LG, which obviously dominate the TV market, they are doing stuff, but I don't know, they're kind of like, what if the TV was clear? You know, it's like they're in that zone with it. And then the cheaper brands, the TCLs, the Hisenses, I want to talk a lot about mini LED. They're coming up fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like for the big companies, they've gotten kind of less and less practical over time with what they show off. These are just sort of like tech demos. And some of them are very cool tech demos.
Well, I think they plateaued, right? Like the technology is plateaued. So
I don't think that's true, but I think
really?
people don't care anymore.
That's
right? Like the
very
technology keeps getting better, but my ability to experience said technology has like long since plateaued. So the only thing to do is like get real weird with it.
Yeah.
And I think part of what we're going to talk about in a little while is like monitors, which are now on this run of like getting better to the point where you're not going to start to notice the difference anymore. But there was just like more to do with computer monitors. Whereas like if you want a kick-ass TV that is too high res for you to know the difference anyway, you've had that for a while.
Oh, my friend, I'm ready to talk about this. All right, so we should talk about some news because I think there's this year at CES, I think that has been true for a minute. It's about to stop being true again in a really exciting way. So the news, Samsung, LG. LG has a new transparent OLED TV. It's the T.
The OLED T.
The OLED T. That's
TVT.
TVT. That's what they're calling it.
T for see-through.
It's clear. It has like a black thing that you can motorize, pull down to make it not clear, but then you can make it clear again.
Yeah.
Chris Welch looked through it. He was blown away. You can read that piece. I went and looked at it on the show floor. It's just out.
Did you notice a crucial thing about it?
No.
So one of them they were playing like Wheel of Time on it.
Yeah.
And they had motion smoothing on.
Ooh.
On their like transparent TV that everybody should care about. Motion smoothing. That was just like upsetting.
Somewhere Tom Cruise is furious.
Yeah. I was furious.
I didn't actually see content. I just saw like CES demo reels.
Yeah, it was like
water falling, flowers opening.
They were beautiful.
Yeah.
Such smooth
And then you
motion.
saw real content. You're
Yeah, there was one TV like in a corner and it was playing just some of Wheel of Time being like, isn't Amazon Prime great? And I was like, is it? And also motion smoothing.
Yikes.
I turned into Tom Cruise for a moment. I almost kicked the TV in.
Does the transparent TV have filmmaker mode? Because I'd like to enable it, please.
I was like, can I have a remote real quick? I just need to fix something for you.
Show up at CS with an LG remote. Just like
Little magic remote everywhere.
So that's LG's big announcement. Samsung has its own riff on a transparent display. They're very excited about all that. Samsung famously is now doing QD OLEDs, quantum dot OLEDs. That's the panel Sony's using, and it's high-end OLEDs. They're doing anti-glare on that. Here's my argument to you about all these TVs. OLED is hitting a weird, interesting peak. Mm-hmm. So the sort of base technology of OLED is like where it's at. Samsung displays putting quantum dots in front of OLED pixels to make them brighter. LG is doing the micro lens array, which is, all this is really cool. They're just like trying to make the OLEDs brighter.
Right.
But the fundamental technology is like hit its point, and it's gotten to about 77 inches, and that's kind of how big they can get them. LG can get to like 83.
But do you need bigger?
So here's what's happening. And those are expensive. Like a big OLED TV is like pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like a Sony A80 is like a pretty expensive TV. That's $4,000, right? And that's about as big as an OLED. Like 83 is right. That's basically it. If you walk on the show floor, you see mini LED TVs are everywhere.
Yeah.
TCL is all in on them. Hisense is all in on them. Hisense is picking up from Samsung. They know that people think like OLED is good. So Hisense is like, ours are ULEDs. Yeah. Just for the longest time, Samsung was like QLEDs. It's like, you think people are so stupid. Like, truly, you think people are so dumb.
They'll do it.
So if you're not caught up on this, the thing that is happening with backlights on LCD TVs, an LCD TV can't make light by itself. It can make the color. So you need to put a backlight behind it. Those backlights have basically gotten more and more advanced over the years. They started out with literally fluorescent lights on the side of the TV. They didn't look great. like old LCDs, literally fluorescent lights on the side of the panels. Then you got into like LEDs behind the panels. That's where you get LED TVs. That's what people are always talking about. Then you started adding local dimming. You started turning those LEDs on and off in zones. Then there was a hilarious spec race over how many zones of local dimming you could have.
It's the best.
That was good.
Which is
thousands of zones.
Right. And then what's the next thing you do? You make the LEDs themselves smaller. You pack more on. You get more zones. You're now up to like 6,000 zones. 60,000 zones is like one of the claims that's out there. I don't know if that's true or not.
It's too many zones.
It's too many zones.
Looking at this thing, I was like, I don't know, the same company put a U in front of the LED to confuse people, like whatever you want, man. So this thing, if you look at these TVs, the backlights are really bright. They have really, really, really well-controlled local dimming, and they look amazing.
They do.
And they're cheap as hell to make because they're just still LCD TVs.
Right.
And the core LCD technology is all the way at the bottom of the cost curve. Like all the way
we've
at the
been
bottom.
doing this for a long time.
Doing it forever.
Yeah.
And what we've been iterating on is the backlight. So now the backlight is starting to come down the cost curve. This mini LED, and this is like year 3 or 4 that we've been talking mini LED. This is the year that it's down the cost curve. And the thing that these manufacturers are doing is they're not saying we've made a better, cheaper 65-inch TV. They're saying, what if you bought a 98-inch TV?
Oh, that's too much.
And TCL has a giant display that's like, we are the #1 provider of 98-inch TVs in the country. And this is our fastest growing model.
There's this amazing graph in the TCL booth that they have printed up next to one of their TVs that is like percentage growth of various sizes. And all the other ones are, like steady growth from 60 to 70, steady growth. And then the highest one is like 398% growth. And it's like, first of all, that means you sold 16 TVs and now you sold 40 TVs. So like, cool. Great job.
Get out of here, you math magician.
But I do think like we've talked about this before, and like you in particular are kind of an OLED purist.
Yeah.
Like
I came very close to buying a mini LED Sony and I was like, couldn't do it.
But I think all these companies are correctly betting that most people are less obnoxious than you about TVs and thus will buy something that is 95% as good as OLED for a literal fraction of the price.
And brighter. Right. And this is the thing and basically what you lose is off-axis viewing. So an OLED looks perfect from basically any angle. LCD screen, you're familiar with LCD screens. You get wide enough, things get weird.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still pretty good on these TVs, especially when the TVs are huge.
Yeah.
It's actually very hard to get off-axis on a 98-inch TV.
You need a big couch.
Sure. I'm 4 miles away to the left. So you have this huge TV. It's really bright because you can make an LCD really bright. And like you have to go look for the blooming on some of these mini. Not all of them. They're going to be all prices and shapes. But I'm just telling you, this is the year that technology just like enters the mainstream. And I think it will probably take the default big TV size from 65, maybe not to 98, but it'll go from 65 to 75 pretty fast because it's going to be cheaper, bigger, and brighter.
Oh, man.
And it's going to look in a store almost as good as the OLED.
Yeah.
Almost as good as the OLED. Like I really had to look on the show floor. And the show floor is like a bad environment. It's like bright and crazy, and all the TVs are cranked up to 9,000 nits or whatever.
And they're playing like the best content to make their TV look good.
Yeah.
There are no blacks. You cannot see.
This is the demo that in particular TCL is doing. There's a big TV, and it's like, it's a flower over black.
Yeah. Or like an Edison light bulb just kind of lighting up in the middle of it.
So they're trying to stress the TV.
And they have a few that are settings. Were you playing with the button?
Yeah, you can push the button. You can basically put it in a mode that simulates an old backlight, and you turn it on, and it does the mini LED backlight, and it looks really good.
That's good.
Now, this is a totally controlled demo. I'm not going to promise you that this is perfect.
Do you remember like 10 years ago when Vizio did their 120-inch TV?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the ugliest
And
thing.
everybody was like, this is preposterous.
You could only check it out like in a giant warehouse because that's the only place the TV would fit. And it was garbage TV.
Yeah.
It was just the ugliest TV possible.
That's when people started doing really intense local dimming demos.
Yeah.
And TV companies will still, like at the drop of a hat, a TV company will go to December and like, here's a TV without the TV. It's just the backlight. And they'll show you like half the screen has a TV on it and the other half is just the backlight. And
Yeah.
like, look at the backlight move with the image. And
You just watch Sandra Bullock spiral out and turn into lights.
Pretty good demo all around. I'm just saying this is the year you see it on the show floor this year. It's everywhere. And my prediction is always rooted in my firm belief that people will pick big, cheap screens. And so if you can give people a screen at 65, say, that is almost as good as an OLED, but cheaper, they're going to pick that one.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Especially if they can't tell. And then if you can get, and it's brighter, which is always the thing.
Well, to that point, actually, it makes me think of the test Marquez Brownlee does every year with the smartphone cameras. And every year what wins is just the brightest camera.
Yeah.
It's like people don't want anything else, but it's just if it's bright and there's lots of colors,
That's
people
it.
are into
They're
it.
gonna-
And it's
they're
the same
nuts.
thing. You see it in a store, it's the same thing. It's why they crank the brightness to 50,000%.
But the thing that I think is just like really interesting is like, oh man, like what if the baseline size of a TV gets even bigger next year? And you're no longer picking between 55 and 65. You're picking between like 65, 75,
And
and 98. This could be kind of wild.
My wife steadfastly refuses to buy a TV above 50 inches for our house.
Oh my God.
She just thinks anything over 50 inches is like outrageous and unnecessary and no one should have it. And the number of choices that we have under 50 inches is getting so small.
Yeah.
So like it's crazy.
And the TVs aren't very good at that size.
No, they're trash. You can't buy a good TV at that size, which is why we have
You
like
got to
a
get to 55.
crappy TCL Roku
What if
TV.
you
Could you
just-
tell Anna this, please?
Yeah.
Can you like black out the 65-inch on the box and just
Like,
Be
no,
like,
I
don't-
promise it's
don't-
50.
yeah, don't worry
She's like,
about
I
it.
thought the other one was 50. Like, no, that one's 30.
you're like,
Don't
see,
worry
they
about it.
measure them differently.
Don't
now.
measure
It's
it.
fine. It's fine.
Don't measure the TV. So that actually brings us to like the next thing that's happening here, which is for all of this talk about fancy backlight technologies and good looking pictures, the best selling TV in the country is the frame TV.
Your nemesis.
It's the proud owner
Well,
of
but
frame
no, but
TV.
those two things totally square for me, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna put this increasingly humongous thing in your home, like an 85-inch black panel just looks ridiculous.
I see. In my mind, that
beautiful.
looks like a symbol of success, stability. But you are correct. Most people do not just want a wall of black in their house.
Right.
They would prefer to have a middling single backlight, extremely bad LCD panel,
the dream. Yeah.
just
all I
showing some art. The frame is wildly successful.
Yeah.
It dominates Samsung's TV sales. They love it. I'm just going to tell you, it is not a great TV. Like it's a find. It will do the job. They've updated it nothing this year because it is basically fine, and they're flying off the shelves. The update for the frame this year is that now in art mode, the refresh rate lowers to 60 hertz instead of just staying at 120.
Sick.
If you have been following like cell phones for any period of time, you're like, oh, this is 4 generations behind variable refresh tech in cell phones. And Samsung's like, no, this is plugged into the wall all the time. We're going down to 60 to show a static image of a painting. The frame is a monopoly. I'm just telling you right now, the frame is a monopoly. They feel no competitive pressure and they're like, whatever, you want some art?
Yeah, everybody's out here now making things that they want to be frame competitors.
Yeah.
And what they are is just televisions.
Right. So TCL has an art store.
Yeah.
It's unclear what that is. They have there's just a sign on the show floor that says TCL Art.
Yeah.
And art is written in like marker font.
And all it is on the booth is a TV with a bunch of paintings around it. And it's like, I think you fundamentally misunderstand what
Yeah.
the frame is doing.
Hisense has it looks like a Jetsons TV. That's their
I didn't
art
see
TV. Yeah.
Okay.
So everyone's trying to come at this idea, which is the TV should look good when it's off.
Right.
And I think Samsung just has such a dominant position here that they just do not care. It would be cool if the TV was better.
Well, but that's also one of the reasons I think that transparent displays are interesting is because like, and this is the stuff we were talking about last week too, that these things are sort of increasingly furniture and there's a feeling like this should blend into the rest of my house instead of just being a gigantic black thing.
To the point that LG one is furniture. Like,
Right. And they're
yeah,
actually
it's got
they're
like
like
shelves.
showing it with all this other stuff on the stand. And yeah, I think that's really cool.
I think it's like very, very cool. I would almost want to get one. But like Chris Welch pointed out, the picture's kind of garbage when you just want to watch TV. It's like, it's worse. But it's better than the frame, at least.
So is everything.
It's like low bar, but
Yeah.
better than the frame.
No, I think that's right. But I think that is like, that trend I think is super interesting, even though we're not getting what we should have. Because the transparent thing is also going to cost $1 billion. And it kind of sits in a really awkward way, in that it's actually going to call more attention to itself than a normal TV would, because we're all kind of conditioned to not notice TVs.
Just have the fireplace
Like
on for it the whole time. You're like, I have a wireframe fireplace.
Yeah,
Don't
like
worry
the
about
fish
it.
tank mode, just 24/7. Yeah, I love it.
That'd be great. Fish tank.
The fish tank thing is so cool.
I swear that was the moment it clicked for me, because I was like, oh, this is going to fancy doctors' offices.
Yeah.
Like that's who's going to use
That's what
this.
you want.
Yeah.
The bleeding edge of OLED technology. You're like, look at some fish in your doctor's office. All right. Samsung did announce some other stuff in the TV zone. I'm just going to read you one. And here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm just going to say this word to you. And I want you to guess what you think this feature is.
Oh, boy.
Samsung announced that its new 24 TVs will feature, in addition to workout tracker and techno gym, which I think are
Perfectly
self-explanatory,
understandable.
Yeah, I get those.
Samsung Tail.
Samsung Tail.
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 Yeah.
Is it an acronym?
Nope.
Is it like Paw Patrol? Is it like for children?
Oh, that's good.
It's not for children.
Okay, it's not
like,
for children.
It's like, okay, this
And
is
it's
my
not a
official
series
guess.
of cops that are dogs.
It's
With tails.
it's pet mode for your television.
Oh, yeah.
That instead
good
of
guess.
turning it all the way off and showing art, you show like puppies running around.
That's good.
Or
It's good.
squirrels.
It's
Something for your
wrong,
dog
but
to
it's
hang
good.
out with.
It's just dead wrong, but
Okay,
it's good.
Alex, what's your guess?
Well, it was Paw Patrol, but now like,
It's just the Paw Patrol.
Just Paw
You
Patrol.
push the button, dogs come running out and solve crimes.
it'd be great. I would love that. Ooh, something related to Wi-Fi?
No,
No.
no.
HDR.
No,
I'm just going to start
you can't-
listing words.
Those are just features of the TV.
Bulbs.
All right. Samsung Tail
Yeah.
enables real-time video consultation with a vet in the comfort of the user's home.
See, we were
From
close.
basic
We were
care
close.
tips to advanced advice, Dr. Tail has a range of questions covered. Users connect with veterinary experts in real time whenever they need. This is a startup that Samsung saw at like a Samsung Dev Day, and they're like, "Yeah, Dr. Tail, you're part of the TVs now," and now it's just part of the TVs.
That's so good.
It's so
That's the
good.
most Samsung thing. Do you remember when Samsung had all those apps called like Milk?
Yeah.
You could get Milk music.
Yeah.
And it's just like Samsung sees a weirdly named startup and it's like, yes, that's it. Let's do it.
That's like
Come
a
be on our
good.
gadgets.
That's a good business model. You just like come up with a startup that wouldn't make sense. Put a weird name on it. Be like
Yeah.
Samsung.
Yeah.
You want
Would
it?
you like to bundle this on an
Look,
Android
big
phone?
tech companies, very few of them can buy companies anymore. All right. This is a problem. Lena Khan's really ruined it, unless it's Dr. Tail and Samsung TV, in which
Go for
case she's fine. Last piece of Samsung news. Speaking of Frame, such a hit. Samsung is expanding the franchise. They've made a Frame speaker, which I still find utterly perplexing because it's just a speaker behind a picture.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
mean, it really is like, imagine you took
a
a
picture.
Bluetooth speaker and just hit it behind a painting.
This
But
is
see,
what I'm saying.
That's what
Samsung
it
did
is.
it for you.
Right.
So I'll be honest, I don't hate this at all. It does not need to exist.
Yeah.
But I love that it does. It's like IKEA makes some of this stuff too, where they're like,
Yeah.
what if our lamp was also a Sonos speaker?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if IKEA? That's a great question.
It does seem
Let's
like
do it.
Samsung has made one turn more innovative than Sonos and IKEA, in that it appears you can pick your own picture in the Samsung Frame speaker, which I don't know if you've been following Frame technology, key element in the analog frame world.
Huge fan of that.
IKEA was like, nah, this is just one picture of sparkles.
Yeah.
you
IKEA
like
was
it?
like, do you want it to look like a hotel room in your house all the time? We got you. Let's go.
Yeah. So that's TV news. It's again, I'm not saying there's like one standout TV here apart from the transparent one. It's not like the year that like plasma TVs were introduced, or the year that OLED kind of broke and we're like, oh, this is the future.
I do think you're right though, that this is like, we're gonna look back at this as like this was the year we saw all the mini LED TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think this is the year that TV sizes start to get bigger. And I think that's fascinating. Like if you are running a movie theater chain and you're looking at people buying 98-inch TVs for their house that look really good, I don't know, man.
What do you put that on though?
A 102-inch wall.
I'm just like, I'm thinking of the furniture situation there. I need basically for me specifically, I just need a much larger credenza to put a TV that big
Yeah.
on it.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
We'll come back next week for the AV furniture show.
Yeah.
Alex's
We'll be
shop
back.
for
It's just
credenzas
me
here in Vegas.
with a measuring tape.
All right, we got to take a break. The frame is a monopoly. All right, I'm just telling you right now. If you are out there, you're a TV maker, put some competitive pressure on Samsung. This thing needs local dimming tomorrow. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Vergecast CES 1, the Kia Connected Home, gazing out. I don't see Dieter out there.
We are reliably told he was there at some point.
I 100% saw Dieter out there earlier.
Shaking my fist in the direction of the Google booth. Lots of other gadgets here at CES.
Lots.
Alex, you've been paying a lot of attention to laptops, monitors, the gaming gadgets.
Yeah.
What's going on in Windows World?
Well, gaming, first of all, has been kind of like weirdly the story of CES,
Gaming has
right?
been really here. Like used to, you could have one person kind of cover gaming stuff reliably, and now it's like, ooh, maybe I need to assign more people to cover this next year because.
And it also
it's
kind of
a
felt
little
like gaming stuff was always sort of off on its own. It was like, here's like the gamer section of CES.
Yeah.
But now it feels like even these like extremely mainstream brands are mostly making gamer things.
Yes, they all are. Like HP's doing it, and Dell, and I mean they were already doing it. But Lenovo like is even kind of leaning more into their gaming stuff. They even introduced another one of those external GPUs that everybody does every couple of years, and we're all like, yeah, this will be the year, and it's never the year. But Lenovo's out there doing it. I think they were mainly thinking more for professional reasons, like using the GPUs for AI. But I think that's also why we're seeing more gaming stuff, is because you need really powerful GPUs for AI and also for gaming. And so it's like,
Interesting.
okay,
Yeah.
we're going to have
And that would also
stuff
explain,
there.
I guess, why it seems like a lot of all this gamery stuff is getting slightly less gamery.
Yeah.
Like my theory with gaming stuff has always been that it's just those are the people willing to spend money on fancy things and high-end
Oh,
specs.
no, I have a way spicier take.
Oh, yeah?
What's your spicier take?
If you want to make a young person buy a Windows computer, it has to be a gaming computer.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's why, like, all of the gaming laptops
By the way, that's
we were
like
seeing-
25% spicier than needs to be. Please direct your emails to Alex.Cranz at the Verge.
I agree with him. I totally agree with him. But no, so we saw like a lot of gaming laptops this year, and they were all like, I wouldn't feel weird pulling it out at a coffee shop. Like I'm older now. I don't really want to pull out something and it's got a bajillion lights on it.
"Wah," when you
Yeah,
turn
like
it on.
yeah, you could hear it from space because it sounds like it's about to go into space. I'm trying to like avoid that in my life now. And
But you still want to play sick games at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
yeah, I still
get
want
it.
to play Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
forever at the coffee shop until they ask me politely to leave. And it feels like that's much more possible now. One, because the processors have gotten better, the CPUs are a lot better, the GPUs have gotten smaller and are very efficient. The batteries are getting a little bit better. And two, they just are making these laptops and thinking about the rest of us. Or more specifically, they're thinking about, as I heard over and over and over again, this will work really well in your dorm room. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
my dorm room, okay. Mine? No, not mine. Someone's dorm room.
Yeah.
And so that's really what they're positioning for. It's for the college kids who are coming in and they don't want like an adult, the laptop their parents have.
Right.
But they also don't necessarily want like neon green lights and stuff all over their laptop.
They want to like play games, but also take the thing to class.
Yeah. And so we're seeing a
That
lot
tracks.
of laptops. A lot of them have new white colorways. That was a big thing for, I think both HP and Legion were both introducing laptops that were like white and they look really, really nice. And you can you've got RGB keyboards. And then if you don't want that, you can turn it off. And that just seems really, really nice. But we saw one from Legion, or we saw one from Lenovo, we saw one from HP, Alienware, that's the Dell one. They used to have a really big exhaust fan on the back, and they still do for their more powerful ones. But the M16R2, they got rid of the butt. There's like a big butt on the back of the
Yeah.
laptop, and they just said, nope.
Classic Alienware move.
Yeah. They like
Chopping the butt.
chopping the butt.
Alienware.
Well, first you add the butt.
Right.
Get
They've
it.
got two moves. The CEO is like, this is the butt year. And then the next year he's like, get rid of the butt.
But that really
It's like,
is.
they used to make the iPod like skinny and then fat, then wide, then narrow.
I'm
You
just
just take a
upset because-
dimension and pull it every year. Yeah.
It's actually very accurate. That is what happens. A lot of times they're like, the butt got too big. We have to shrink the butt. And so this year they took it completely off. They've still got it for their higher end ones, but for the NVIDIA 4070 and below, they were like, we don't actually need to have all of that exhaust. We don't need all that heat and stuff. We're fine. You can do enough for gaming. And that's true. Like most games nowadays aren't as demanding. Like the really popular ones, the Fortnite, the Baldur's Gate, just not as demanding.
and it also feels like all of these companies have finally figured out like who a gaming laptop is for.
Yes.
Because I think for a long time there was this idea that we can make a gaming laptop that is as powerful as your like hand-built PC, and it's going to be all things to all people, and it is going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
And that was wrong. It just was never going to work. And so it feels like we've now landed on this point where, like, yes, if you want the like true gaming monster, you want to be at, 1440p at high settings, like there are computers for you, and they are in towers and they sit on your desk. But if you're like, to your point, I guess the dorm room thing actually makes a lot of sense. It's like, if you want to play pretty good games at pretty high settings, but also like live a regular person life with your regular computer, they're like getting better at finding that middle ground.
Can you imagine bringing like one of those big 20-inch laptops with like the multiple chargers into your door, like into your school, your college class?
Like, what's up, chemistry? Let's do this.
Horrible.
Plug it in, get out the mouse.
That's how
like,
you
let's
get
go.
like failed. That's how you get called on every single question.
It feels like after all these years of trying to make like the one laptop that could be all things to all people, ultra powerful and ultra portable and everything, they're finally finding like a pretty good middle ground that isn't for anybody at either side, but actually hits like the middle 80% in a way better way.
Yeah. And like, I consider myself a gamer. I play a lot of video games. I don't want that huge giant laptop.
Right.
I don't want to carry it. It's super heavy. I don't want to try to power it. Some of the times you can't even bring the chargers on the plane. Like, I want something that I can play most of my games at reasonable enough. That's why I like the Steam Deck. That's why it's a really fun device. That's why we're seeing a lot more of these like little handheld PCs where you can play that. Like the MSI Claw was the new one this time, which I really, really like. Not as much as Sean. Sean loves the MSI Claw.
Yeah.
But also, I don't like it because the controls on it. Have you seen the controls?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so the Steam Deck has the little touch pads, and you can control it, and it works like a mouse. Everybody else who's doing this right now has just joysticks and a D-pad. And it's just not as good. I'm like, part of why I like the Steam Deck is I have a bajillion inputs. And now it's like...
And they're all super customizable.
Yeah.
So you can do any kind of weird thing you want with your Steam Deck.
Yeah, instead they're now like, okay, what we're going to do is pack in like a little Intel processor. We're going to make this thing really, really fast and not give you super great controls. But you are getting much better displays. Like the MSI one, the MSI Claw has like a variable refresh rate. It's got a decently sized battery, and it's got the Hall effect joystick, so you don't get the drift and stuff.
Wait, so there's some like Intel processor news. You said that the Claw it's got a newer Intel processor in it.
Right.
Intel's got its new 14th gen mobile processors here. That's sort of
making
all these gaming laptops go.
They announced it like, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago. They announced it right before CES.
Yeah.
And it's the new Meteor Lake. And they're just really, really good processors. I feel like for the last couple of years, you would always go to an event and everybody would be like, we're going to make really thin laptops next year. Like fan-free, really cool laptops, just like Apple. And it's going to be awesome. And it never happened.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh no, they can actually do it. Like Meteor Lake gives you these really, really thin laptops. It's giving you these really, really cool handheld gaming devices where you can actually have a lot of power in a fairly small thing and still have the good thermals. Because that's also the big limitation. Like, you can't do really fast gaming if the processor overheats, which it will.
If your device is on fire, it doesn't play games.
If your
very
hands
well.
are melting holding on to it, that's bad. and they've it seems like with Meteor Lake, they've finally found that balance. And like we haven't gotten to check out a lot of these things.
I was going to say, I feel like
interesting.
I've heard that specific story so many times.
Yeah.
And Qualcomm is out here being like, we did it, guys.
But I think
our batteries last 37 hours.
I think the difference is typically the laptop makers don't like buy into that hype. Like Intel will come out and tell you this is a year, and then the laptop makers generally will be like, this is not the year. We may release like one as like a pity.
Right. They'll often run like a whole generation behind just for that reason, because they're like, we don't trust this new thing. We're going to wait this out a minute.
Yeah, because they're the ones that are going to get yelled
everybody
at.
is
But this year,
now.
everybody jumped on it. Everybody
true.
has stuff. They're really, really embracing it. So it feels like we're finally like, I think it was 2017, 2018, where I was seeing these super thin laptops, and they'd be like, next year, this is going to come out. We're going to show you this for real. And I'm like, cool. And it never happened. And then this year, like, it really feels like it's happening. And it's not just with the gaming ones, too. It's also like Lenovo's got a new ThinkBook 13X, I believe it's called. And it is just like, it's super, super thin. It only weighs like 2.2 pounds. It's got a magnesium body, so it's like stainless magnesium, so it doesn't get fingerprints at all. Everything else in the Lenovo booth was covered in fingerprints. And that one worked. I was like, hey, it does work. And it was just like, it feels like a toy, but it was a full laptop. And I was like, I just covet this. I just want to own this laptop now because it is so thin and so light. It was like the old MacBook.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's that.
I really hope that's true.
I want that to be true.
To me, running around looking at a bunch of these laptops, there's been the sort of normal CES glut of just like weird ideas about laptops.
Yeah.
Where there's some that they're like, what if we had foldable screens? And you saw a Lenovo one that runs Windows and Android. And sometimes they're just like, what if everything about the laptop we just moved 6 inches to the left and then that was a laptop? But there's also just a bunch of them this year that they're just like, oh no, we just made a better laptop that is good.
Yeah.
And it feels like, especially the last 3 years, Apple has just like run away with the best laptop to use every day as a regular person.
This is what I'm saying about the gaming PCs. If you want to knock someone off the default of buying a MacBook Air, you need to show up with video games.
Right, which is, I think, part of why Apple is now pushing the Mac as a gaming platform
Yeah.
harder than ever, because they're trying to undo that a little bit. But that only works for the Windows manufacturers to the extent that you have also made a pretty good laptop.
Yeah.
Because like I'll figure out another way to play games, and like Microsoft is doing Game Pass, which is going to be playable on these other devices. So like that specific thing is going to fall apart if these Windows manufacturers can't figure out how to make just like an everyday very good laptop that is also better for gaming. And like it's starting to spin.
But
back.
let me
There's
ask
just
Alex
good
about
laptops.
the most incredible device here at CES. It's the Lenovo ThinkBook, which I believe you've seen.
I've seen all of
handled.
the Lenovo's. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just stop you real fast?
Yeah.
It's called the ThinkBook Plus Gen 5 Hybrid. Please. That's very important.
My apologies, the Gen 5 hybrid family. I'll be releasing this as a
Gen
notes.
4 can get out of here.
As you know, I've always valued the contributions of the Gen 5 hybrid family. I meant no disrespect. I have so many Gen 5 hybrid friends.
Your best friend is Gen 5.
It's like somehow I'm going to take this joke and actually canceling myself. I don't know how, but it's coming. No, you saw this thing.
Yeah.
Gen 5 hybrid. It is literally two computers
It's just two
attached
computers.
with a hinge.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So that it has a Qualcomm processor in the screen and an Intel processor in the base, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's on the base of it is just a Windows machine, and then the top of it is a tablet. And when you pick it up, you're like, oh yeah, that's a tablet up there, because it kind of like has that little wobble. It's not as bad as sometimes.
Yeah.
Remember the early ones where they put the tablet up and then the horrible little keyboard, and you'd pick it up and you'd be like, I could never use this. It's a little more balanced than that, but it's still got that like heft to it because it's got a 14-inch tablet like in the top of it. And what was interesting was you really just like pull it off. You don't have to press a button. You don't have
Really?
to do anything. You just like grab it and yank.
Because it's its own computer. It's its own battery. It's have two batteries.
Yeah, it's got two batteries. So it's
This
like,
is like
I love
the-
this product.
Do you
It's
remember
just-
the Microsoft Surface Book?
yeah.
That was one of those things that like I don't think anyone bought it except for like 6 people, but those
My
6
niece
people
and nephew had Surface.
I was like,
loved it. That had like a rabid fan base of people
Yeah.
who liked it for exactly that reason. It's
But the
like
base had a battery and a GPU.
right.
yeah.
So this made the base of the Lenovo ThinkBook Plus Gen
That's
5
fair.
hybrid
It's a Windows computer.
is just a full-on Windows computer.
Just a whole one.
I actually really love this.
It's like it's a weird, fun idea. They were like, oh, we asked, hey, can you communicate between the two? Like if you're working on something and you pull it off, pull the tablet off, you can keep working. They're like, no. It's two computers.
It's like a full Dr.
You will
Jekyll
need-
and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, you will have to
computer.
transfer all of your files in
No.
order to do it.
They,
Yeah.
they didn't even build like
Fantastic.
an app to fake it.
They're working on that.
They're working.
They're working on that. There was also like the pull like separating the two is a little difficult because it's a sample. It's not ready for release yet. They
Yeah.
said it's absolutely going to be better when the thing finally comes out. So I'm excited to try
$2,000.
that out. $2,000.
As somebody who
It's two computers. It's,
They haven't figured out the detach. I mean, just read from Alex. She's being nice.
yeah.
This is very nice. The converting process was also dead simple. Just yank on the tablet until it disengages. The sample version I tried would sometimes need some coaxing to separate.
Just a little. I was like, at one point, I was like, maybe it just doesn't come off. Maybe like this isn't the laptop I'm supposed to be looking at.
Maybe this isn't the Gen 500.
And then the guy came over and was like, no. I'm like,
You just gotta want it.
yeah.
That's great.
And then it worked fine after that. I guess
This is a classic CS product.
yeah, it was
As
a
somebody
delight.
who like rode really hard for the Asus Transformer lineup
Yeah.
for years, where you could dock your phone into a tablet and then dock that tablet into a keyboard, and it was just all the devices all at once.
Yeah.
I'm so happy this thing
This
exists.
is CS exists again to sell TVs to the unwitting masses, and also to have the Motorola. What was it? The Axiom.
The Atrix.
The Atrix.
Atrix,
the
yeah.
greatest phone of all
The
time.
my
Atrix,
God.
which they had a lap dock, and
I
then that
wanted it
opened,
so bad.
and then the Transformer, and then this guy. Just
Yep.
if you can shove two computers into one computer,
Yes.
CS is the place for you.
I was describing CES to somebody this morning as half just a place to show off things that Best Buy might want to buy,
Yep.
and then half just companies saying, "Is this anything?" and it's just they're just like V Song wrote a whole thing about like a wood paneled litter box that will also weigh your cat. It's like that is the most "is this anything" gadget I've seen in forever, and I love CES for that.
I have a question.
You just walk by and it's people who are like, "I'm from France. Is this anything?"
Does it weigh your cat before and after? Like, given the nature of a litter
It's a
box,
really good question.
by all accounts, you could also back into weighing something else.
Right, it would
very
know what's
easily.
Yeah.
left. It's a really good question.
I don't know what that data is for.
Why would you need? I just know
Science.
her cat's apparently too large to use it.
Samsung Tail will tell you.
My apologies.
She's gonna be holding up the Samsung
Everyone.
tail.
All right. Okay. So I want to ask about two more things. Every year, Razer
They do
usually
a thing.
They do a thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like a project, but it seems like they're pretty chill this year.
Pretty chill. They did have like a pad that you can like sit on for your seat, and it will like kick you in the butt when you play video games.
You would say it's a haptic cushion.
Yeah.
I think they called it.
And that's Sean was kind of impressed by it. He was like, "This is fun," but that technology's been around for a while. Like a lot of people have done that before, and as with a lot of these Razer like CES things, they never come to fruition.
They're very good at getting attention.
Yeah,
for,
they're very. I
is
mean,
this
I love it.
anything? Yeah.
Like the year they brought in the Razer laptop and it had 3 screens, and I was like, next year this is going to exist. It never.
No.
right.
Speaking of things you'd love to take into chemistry class.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then there's a Samsung flip phone called the Flipple.
Okay.
What is this called?
Once again, Nilay, I am in the position of having to correct you on very important naming things. There are 2 new Samsung display folding screens. I am on the record as I believe flip phones are the future and folding
Yes.
phones are mostly stupid. Samsung has 2 new flip phone concepts, both of which basically go not quite 360 degrees because it runs into each other, but it like folds all the way open. One is called the Flex In and Out, all one word.
Yeah.
And the other is called, we should talk about this. The other one is either called the Flex Lipple
Okay.
or the Flex Lipple.
I just want to point out that Flipple is a better name.
It is
Flipple is a
100%
name.
better.
It is, I believe, a portmanteau of the words light and simple.
Oh no.
So Lipple has to be it because Lipple's hysterical.
It does have to be Lipple.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's
Lipple sounds more
not
like a
better.
medical
It's
condition
not
that you'd have.
better, but like
Lipple sounds like a medical condition. Doctor.
Lipple's what
Lipple.
you take for your heart. Lipple's like the thing you get diagnosed with.
Yeah, I think that's right. But these things are like,
It also rhymes with something. I'm just putting it out there. But just,
I think we
does-
all
it
know
does
what's getting
do that.
diagnosed
Yeah.
when you have Lipple, okay? We all know what part of the body is getting diagnosed.
we got David. We
do
broke
all
David.
know.
It's day one of the CS
Oh,
show. We
boy.
broke David Pierce. It's gone.
I just,
But so you like the phones? is what
Yeah,
you're saying?
you like them. The LIPLE.
yeah, just again, it's like on the is this anything scale. Everybody comes every year to CES and is just like, look at this crazy thing we made a screen do. LG has a big booth of the bending OLEDs. The competition for like wildest array of screens this year is kind of a bummer, actually.
Yeah.
We really toned it down. LG
Yeah.
and Samsung have really toned it down.
Yeah, normally they're just like, we have a wave of 600 televisions
Yeah.
that you can walk through. And this year, LG's thing was just like, I don't know, 20 of the transparent TVs that just move back and forth.
Not a single tunnel.
Not that cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
But
exciting.
anyway, so I think Samsung is doing stuff with phones that I continue to think is really interesting. And part of the appeal of something like this is that because it can fold all the way around, you don't need an outside screen and an inside screen, which could, in theory, make this thing cheaper and easier to manufacture.
Would it?
But then what happens to the inside when you unfold it?
It becomes the outside.
So it's just nothing.
You can customize it.
Yes.
Beautiful pictures of Will.i.am and his Mercedes.
I do, and we'll talk about this on Thursday. Alex is doing some important foreshadowing here.
Yes.
Will.i.am wrote a song about infotainment systems. CES, everybody.
We have until Thursday to figure out a fair use way to play the whole song on the Vergecast.
All right, we got to take a break. We should talk about the Vision Pro announcement.
Yeah,
'cause
we should.
It did hit this week. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll talk about that. All right, we're back. CES day one. It's day one.
One-ish.
Yesterday was day 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I get this wrong every year. I've been coming here. This is like my 15th year, and I still don't quite know what day of the show it is. I think it's day 1. Lots to talk about at CES. We've got another show coming later this week with all the rest of it. There's still news happening. We should end, though, this episode by talking about the thing that didn't happen here, but that will probably dominate the year in tech coverage, no matter what, the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, which is a screen gadget and thus fits
Which is a
the rubric
screen.
of our episode.
It's like mini screens.
The most
Right.
screens. I heard a rumor, like I said at the top of the show, people at CS are just full of speculation over the screens in the Vision Pro, how much this thing costs to build, whether Apple is making any money on it, whether they're not making any money on it. So we already knew the price.
Yep.
Industry should take note from Apple. Apple announced these things. They're like, here's a price in a release window. They said early 24, and they meant it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End of January, they announced. February 2nd, this thing shipping.
Yep.
$34.99, $3,500 for a 256 gigabyte model. Unclear if you need more storage in your face computer. Who knows?
To be fair, that's going to be like 4 minutes of spatial video, as far as I can tell.
Spatial video on iPhone, where you can record it right now. It's
Yeah.
130 megabytes per minute.
Yeah, it's real big.
Yeah.
That's not small.
That's
You know, you got to think in TikTok minutes, not
I
like
see. That's fair. Okay.
real minutes.
Right.
yeah. So they, it's announced it. I would say that the press release announcing Vision Pro, deeply confusing. Does not have any AR or MR apps really mentioned. Apps it mentioned in the press release include Fantastical and Slack.
It really seems like this is an iPad for your face. And what we've heard from developers is that Apple is going way out of its way to tell them not to call it AR or VR or MR or XR or any of the other thousands of things. Like Apple is very specific that these are spatial computing apps.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to work. I've been wrong about Apple's ability to make things into buzzwords before, but that one doesn't really work for me. But it really does seem like, at least at the beginning, I've been talking to developers really for the last 6 months about this, and the number of folks that I've talked to who are either sitting it out at the very beginning because they haven't spent enough time with it and aren't sure what to do with it and don't want to ship a crappy app just to have something there the first day, or people who are saying, basically everything we're doing is based on an iPad app anyway. That's kind of the starting point for these Vision Pro apps. We're just going to ship the iPad app and we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. And I just want to give you the list. So Apple's own press release. I'm just going off very directly. Here's how Apple is communicating about the Vision Pro. They say it's shipping, it's coming out, revolutionary new operating system and user interface, Vision OS. You can use your pinchy pinch to select things, eye tracking. Eye tracking, when I saw it, was amazing. Then they're like, you can immerse yourself in environments, which is a straight up VR feature.
Yes.
Right? That's interesting. The first thing that they tell you about it is that you can put yourself somewhere else. So it's a VR headset. Fascinating to consider.
Yeah.
It's the first thing they say. Then they say, here's all the stuff you can do. Bullet list. An infinite canvas for productivity. First bullet in the list. Fantastical Freeform, Jigspace, Microsoft 365, and Slack. It's like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Haleakala, and I'm going to Slack. Right? Like, if you just read the press release, that's where you land.
Yeah.
In Apple's own messaging. I think this is fascinating. Maybe this is the best Slack experience anyone has ever had in their entire life. It's just interesting But this is what they're landing on. Then the ultimate entertainment experience. So, they're very proud of these displays, more than 4K TV for each eye, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus Max, other services on a screen that feels 100 feet wide. Okay, that's with HDR video.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a
big TV? They made
fun
a big
conspiracy
TV.
theory I have about this, which is that Apple deliberately doesn't mention Netflix because Apple and Netflix are beefing over all the stuff in the Apple TV Plus app. I have no evidence for this. That's how I feel.
I would believe that 100%.
Users can also enjoy new interactive experiences like Encounter Dinosaurs, VR app.
Yep.
So again, I'm just reading their press release. I'm not saying these things are good or bad. I'm just saying if you just read how they're talking about it, they have described to you a VR headset.
Yep.
Yes.
Fascinating. Then gaming experiences, access games in the App Store, including 250 titles on Apple Arcade. This is where I think the iPad for your face comes in.
Yeah.
Because what do we know about the Quest? The thing that sells the Quest is games, fundamentally games, and Supernatural, which is a fitness game.
Yep.
That's what even Meta refers to the Quest as a games console. It is by far you might think the Vision Pro is going to blow the Quest away, but it is currently the market leader. So it's the thing you compare it to. Super Fruit Ninja, What the Golf. These are iPad games, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then the next one is Memories Brought to Life, spatial videos and photos. This is fascinating. The people I know who have tried this thing say it is very convincing. I am very excited to try it. I've been taking some spatial videos. Excited to try it when we get our hands on one of these things. But that's limited to people who own an iPhone 15 Pro.
Right.
So that the thing costs $3,500. I'm assuming that's a pretty big
This is-
overlap of Apple customers. And then it's the stuff, right? Spatial FaceTime where you get your avatar, you can talk to, but you need 2 Vision Pros to pull this off. Fascinating. If a user is wearing Vision Pro while on FaceTime, they appear as their persona, while others joining from Mac, iPad, or iPhone appear in a tile. Okay, like we just have to see this stuff work, but that's still like this is the cutting edge stuff, and you can't really use it
Yeah.
because you yourself will not experience this.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's actually
You
possible.
will be the persona to someone else.
Right. If you're on a Vision Pro and everybody else is on a different Apple device for FaceTime,
You get tiles.
It's actually not going to be a great experience.
Right.
It'll be fine, but like it won't be. Again, it's a Face iPad. That's what that will feel like.
What will you look
And
like?
then that's it, by the way. Then we get breakthrough design, and we can talk about that stuff. But that, in terms of experiences you can have in the headset, that's Apple's list.
So iPad stuff and VR stuff.
And it's just funny that the first thing they describe is you will go somewhere else, just totally VR, and then they describe productivity. Then you can play games from the App Store, and then this Personas thing. Again, I've worn one of these things. It was very compelling when I wore it. It's the best VR experience I've ever had.
Yeah.
But if Apple wants to break through into the spatial computing and they think the future is augmented reality, actually very unclear where the augmented reality part of this headset comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the productivity is probably going to be the closest thing that we see there.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing I noticed, and again, it's possible this is just like the way that it's written in the press release, is Apple mentions that there are sort of specific spatial games like made for the Vision Pro and doesn't say that about any other app. So it's like, I think there's a decent chance that what we're going to get is like Fantastical with a different border in the Vision Pro. And I think that's going to be a lot of these apps where
Translucent.
like they're just going to get rid of the Chrome in their apps so that it feels more like a floating rectangle. And that's going to be the Vision Pro app.
Yeah.
And I think this question of like, what does a spatial calendar look like is going to take a while. And I don't know if that's a thing people want or if that's worth working on or if it's going to be meaningfully better than an iPad app in front of your face. But it doesn't seem like anyone has really cracked that.
Yeah.
And I think Apple is betting that some combination of FaceTime and just like the interface is going to be the killer app for people. Because like to your point, the eye tracking is awesome.
Yeah.
The pinchy pinch thing, at least in the demos that we've gotten, is fantastic. Like it's just fun to use the thing. And I think for at least this first version of a $3,500 gadget, that might get Apple far enough.
So yeah, my theory is that Apple does not really want people to buy this one, like at scale, right? They're gonna make 500,000, maybe. I think that's the rumor I heard in terms
I was
of
like, that's a lot.
I
That
was gonna
feels like
say
a
that's
lot.
the thing I've been hearing a bunch this week is how many does Apple think it's going to sell?
Yeah,
That's the other number everybody's talking
about. The thing I heard yesterday is they are actually capped by how many displays that can be made. We'll see, right? They're at the bleeding edge of display tech, so we'll see. I just think that Apple does not want this to be this version of this thing to be a mass consumer,
Right, because it's a developer's kit. Like,
yeah, they just polished it up to.
Yeah, that's why we don't. That's why everything in it is kind of weird, and we don't know what the killer app is because they don't know what the killer app is. So they're like, "Here's our thing. Please don't call it VR or AR, even though that's what it is."
Yeah.
And I get why they're doing that. They want to, like, they're late to that game, and so they don't want to feel like they're late to that game. So spatial computing is the thing, and it sounds like it is really, really cool, but it's also just very clear that they don't know what they're doing entirely.
Yeah. And so let me just tell you what you get for your $3,500. You get the headset. You get the solo knit band and the dual loop band.
Sick.
Which are the headbands put around your head.
Appreciate
a light seal and 2 light seal cushions. The light seal seems like a thing that you got to finagle with and get exactly right because you got to block out all light. The Vision Pro cover, very important. Polishing cloth.
Don't just skip over that. That's like
for
$20.
It's a lot.
I know.
Wow.
Free polished cloth. The battery, the USB-C charging cable, and the USB-C adapter. I think we continually forget Vision Pro has a 2.5-hour battery life with an external battery pack.
Yeah. That you wear in your pocket.
Yeah, on a cable. I'm just telling you, like, I agree with you. I think this is a developer kit. I think they need developers to get their hands on this thing. They need people to start using it. They need to collect some data about what it's for, why it exists. And I think that is just the most unlike Apple I've seen any product in quite a while. Even the watch, which I criticized heavily at the beginning, and it took them 3 tries to figure out the watch.
Yeah.
And now it's a huge success, and everybody knows it's a huge success. But the watch was like a shotgun blast of ideas about what you could do with a computer on your wrist. Down to you will flirt with people in school by sending them your heartbeat. But that was like a complete Johnny Ive thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a good thought.
It's a fun thought.
Not a thought that landed anywhere. But he was like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put your fingers on your wrist. Then you're just going to read your heartbeat. And someone else is going to feel your heartbeat. And they will know that you want to go to the movies.
The Vision Pro is like comparatively a little, is this anything?
Yeah.
That way.
It's got that vibe.
Yeah.
And
But you know what's weird is there's nothing at CES trying to compete with it. Like
There's
we're
a
running
couple
around,
of things.
there's
Sony
tons of
announced a
glasses.
fake headset that doesn't exist.
In real.
But that they're just imagining as like a content creation device.
Yeah.
It's a camera more than it is anything. But then we saw X-Real, which is making the sort of like AR display glasses. It's doing more like degrees of freedom and they can see depth and all this stuff. Like they're pushing towards this thing, but everybody else is still on this. Like we're going to take something that looks passably like glasses and then try to make it more and more powerful over time. No one, at least as far as I've seen, is trying to do the whole swing so far.
I mean, Meta is very clear. Like, Meta is, right?
Yeah, oh, sure. But Meta's not really here doing stuff either.
Like, I think the thing is, Apple, we're looking at it as like, oh, why is nobody competing with Apple here? And that's because Apple is late to the party. And Apple has to actually compete with
everyone else already launched their failed VR headsets 2 years ago.
And 3 and 4 and 5 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. But no, and I also think what I've heard from a bunch of people this week that the fact that the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, the ones that actually look like real glasses, have been such a hit with people is changing a lot of folks' mind about actually the way to approach this. And I've gotten a lot of confidence from people over the last couple of months, but even including at this show, who think the Vision Pro is wrong in a way that people don't usually bet against Apple products.
Interesting.
And are convinced that if we can take something that is closer to looking like a normal thing you'd wear out at a place like CES and not a pair of ski goggles on your face, we can get that to powerful faster than Apple can get the Vision Pro to like socially cool.
Yeah.
And I think Apple usually wins that race, but this is kind of the hardest it has ever had to try to do that. And I just think it's going to be so fascinating. But I am sort of bummed that no one here, like this is the year Samsung should have been like,
there's a rumor that
it's
Samsung
the milk
and Google
headset.
are going to do. It doesn't have local dimming, but it'll show you artwork
Right.
anywhere you want. There's a rumor that Google and Samsung are going to do something again.
yeah,
We'll see.
because that went great the last time. Remember
Like I
the
said,
Galaxy
everyone-
Gear? How everybody had one of those.
We've run this experiment before. Maybe we'll see. But that is, I will say, CS is great. I love gadgets. I love talking about TVs and laptops that are actually two laptops bolted together.
Put them together. Exhibit would be so happy.
But I suspect we're going to spend the year talking about the Vision Pro.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Because it really, Apple's betting on it. It's their big new category. A lot of ideas contained in that thing. And I agree. I think there's something to the fact that the Meta glasses are doing well and people like them in a way that I usually don't see this. Sean Hosser is here. He's taking a lot of videos at a lot of the little events. He's been wearing a phone sort of like on a chest mount so he could like show people with his hands. And our commenters on TikTok and other social platforms are assuming that he's taking with the Meta glasses.
Oh, interesting.
Which is super fascinating. Like they've broken into consciousness such that people think that that's the camera he's using. And like Vera and our director is like, nah, that's an iPhone on a sheet. All right, I think that's it for this day one. It's day one, Liam.
Day one.
Day one of CES.
It's always day one.
There's lots more on the show. We got to do an entire show about not screens.
Yeah.
And Alex has to talk about
Some of which have
ATSC 3.0. Some of which have screens.
Some of the non-screens.
We haven't talked about a car yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all cars here at CES. Which are not screens per David's rubric.
They're not screen gadgets, but they do have screens. Shut up. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine.
Things that roll and things that don't. That's the new split. We'll be back a little later this week with that episode. In the meantime, if there's stuff you want us to go check out at CES, you have questions about some of the stuff you're seeing, we're here. Like I said, from a tech reporter standpoint, this is fish in a barrel. We can go find out almost anything you want except what the Vision Pro is for. That'll be for later. All right, that's it. That's Vergecast. Rock and roll.